It does appear that the court took a very friendly view towards Ms. Heard's allegations. And in my view, I read the opinion pretty quickly, seems to have dismissed some of the well-established bad facts for her. I think in a US court, a judge would view these incidents somewhat more skeptically in terms of they affect her credibility overall. So there are some things that are recounted in the opinion. He seems to sort of dismiss them quickly and say they don't really go to the underlying allegations, whereas I think a US court might treat that a little differently. They might say, well, this does cast doubt on her overall story. I have to be candid. I think it's going to be very difficult for Depp to prevail, especially now when you've had a UK judge look at it under a more, forgiving standard for plaintiffs and rule quite conclusively against him. It doesn't bode well for Depp. He may have had no choice at this point to go forward with it because he's got the trial scheduled. But I have to tell you, I don't think his chances are great. In the US, there's a series of jurisdictions that have what's so-called anti-SLAPP laws. California is one of those, and that would have been a natural forum. But in an anti-SLAPP case, the defendant can bring a quick motion to strike the allegations and actually obtain damages if they're not substantially justified. So it's very risky to bring defamation cases in states that have those laws. New York is another state that has that, but Virginia doesn't. So while truth is a defense in both countries, the burden of proof is very different. In the US, the plaintiff has to prove that the statements were false. In the UK, the defendant has to prove the statements were true. And it all really flows out of the First Amendment here in the United States and the difference in the two countries' laws. But in the US, we have a very permissive standard for speech. And it's very hard to get, it's very hard to win a defamation case in general, especially when it's a public figure like Johnny Depp. And especially, even more so, when the subject matter of the case in the US is an editorial that Ms. Heard wrote in the Washington Post, which never mentioned Johnny Depp by name. In the US, so you had Amber Heard. She wrote an article which was very, very much part of the Me Too movement, where she said she had been suffered abuse, but she never accused Johnny Depp directly. She referenced back to her early life, in fact, when she was a teenager, and then she talked about how she felt persecuted for speaking out and so on, but she never mentioned him. They argued successfully that everybody who read the article would understand that she was implying references to Johnny Depp. So it's all about implied defamation. For one, the story would be taken down. Secondly, they might, the editorial would be taken down. They might succeed in getting some sort of a publication by the Post or by Ms. Heard of apology or correction. And then there'd be money damages. And I don't know how, how that would be satisfied. His reputation has already been considerably damaged. So it's kind of hard to unring that bell. And I don't know, what his career prospects are, because no matter what happens, the evidence that comes out into the public eye as a result of this trial is going to be, very damning. There's a lot of bad stuff. When you read that decision, which is quite lengthy and detailed, neither party comes out looking very good. He comes out really looking awful.